Angola, Rwanda, Nigeria, Morocco, Tunisia, and Ghana.
A true-born African.
The coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, is an infectious disease that's ravaging the world. The virus first emerged in Wuhan, China last December and has since spread to 188 countries and regions. The World Health Organization declared the outbreak a public health emergency of international concern in January. So far, millions of people have been infected and affected by the pandemic. The pandemic caught many countries unprepared as the virus spread fast across the globe. Africa, especially, faces a huge threat due to its strained health system.
In some member states, we have weak public health institutions, weak systems, health systems. We have gaps in the diagnostics. We have gaps also for the treatments and the measures we need to take quickly. But I think by joining our collective efforts as African member states, by the leadership of WHO and the joint effort between WHO and Africa CDC, we managed very quickly to fill in the gaps of the diagnostics capabilities in the continent.
As more African countries confirmed the outbreak of the coronavirus, the Kenyan government announced the suspension of all international flights, and the government took safety measures to lift transmission of the virus by imposing a night curfew and restrictions on movement.
The government suspended international flights for a period of 2 weeks from Wednesday, 25th March 2020, which expires today at midnight. After serious consideration of the situation, the government has extended the ban for another 30 days with effect from tomorrow, 6th April 2020. This suspension will not, however, apply to those flights that are coming in to evacuate foreign nationals from the country. It also exempts cargo flights that are coming to the country to deliver goods. They must not, however, have passengers on board.
The flower farming industry in Kenya is among those affected by overseas travel restrictions and orders cancellation.
Our major market is in Europe, where we command about 40% of the market share. And in terms of our produce, 70% of our produce goes to Europe. So anything that happens in Europe has a direct and immediate impact on what we do.
It's affecting my life because I have children going to school. I myself, I need food, clothing, paying rent, and everything of the sort.
Flower farms are harvesting and destroy their flowers because they cannot ship them anywhere.
We can approximate it to about $13,000 a day, approximately, times 30 days, times the number of months the unfortunate situation continues.
Patrick Moya is struggling to cope with life after losing his job at a flower farm in February, joining more than 10,000 others like himself who've been laid off.
Sasa wakati corona ilikuja, tulianza kuambiwa usiaje job, kazi iko chini, kuna mambo inatoka nje sana. Sasa kazi iko chini sana, hatuwezi manage kwenda kazi kama hakuna kazi. Maisha imekuwa ngumu. Ile tu tunang'ang'ana, tunapata tu kitu ya kukula, unatumia familia kidogo mnakula. Sasa saa hii kulipa nyumba bado imekuwa shida. Sasa tumeungana tu grupu ya watu 4, tunakaa nyumba moja. Tukikaa hapo kila mtu atang'ang'ana tu apate kitu kidogo, mwingine kidogo, tunalipa nyumba. Alafu ile kidogo tu inabaki tunakula tu.
As the virus continues to spread in the country, a big cause for concern is how it will spread and affect those that live in congested, low-income areas.
In countries with large, poor populations, the stay-at-home orders and other restrictions used in some high-income countries may not be practical. Many poor people, migrants and refugees are already living in overcrowded conditions with few resources and little access to health care. How do you survive a lockdown when you depend on your daily labor to eat? News reports from around the world describe how many people are in danger of being left without access to food.
Kibera is the biggest, largest and poorest slum in Africa. The people of Kibera, who mostly rely on menial jobs, have not been spared either. They can hardly go out to work without violating the imposed social distancing rules.
Hii corona imeaffect maisha yangu. Hata nikienda kununua mboga tu hata ya 50 peke yake haiendi. Hata nikienda kununua machungwa kama ya 100 haiendi. Sasa corona imeaffect kila kitu, hata bila unaweza kusurvive kwa maisha ni vingumu, vile unaweza kufanya na watoto ni vingumu. Kwa saa hii naweza pata hata kama ni shilingi 100, na shilingi 100 hiyo siwezi kujisaidia naye kwa maisha yote. Kutoka asubuhi watoto wanataka kunywa chai, watoto wanataka waoke, watoto wanataka wakule chakula kama lunch. Siwezi kuweza kwa sababu corona imeaffect mambo mingi. Hata makastoma wenyewe kununua mboga vile hawana kazi, wamekaa tu kijiji, hakuna vile wanaweza kupata pesa ya kununua hata mboga. Sasa maisha imekuwa ngumu sana. Msasi kama mimi niko na wasiwasi. Kama mimi ndio nimesimama kutetea watoto peke yangu na hii corona iendelee, tunaomba tu serikali itumie mbinu ya kuweza kuona kama watapata tawa. Labda ndio akitutangazia wamepata tawa ndio tuishi na nguvu. Lakini sasa kama kipira corona imeshaingia, si tunaishi na mtetemeko tu, corona itatumaliza wote hata watoto.
As the pandemic has spread, its public health and socio-economic impacts have been profound and have disproportionately affected the vulnerable. Many populations have already experienced a lack of access to routine, essential health services.
Well-wishers come out in large numbers to help. Jobbe Tange is one of them. He is a resident of Kibera and the founder of the Shine Kibera Center. He took initiative to help some of the most vulnerable families in the Kibera slums.
Actually, with the corona pandemic, which actually came to our country recently, it has changed people's lives a lot. Lately, people have seen a lot of changes in their lives in terms of lack of jobs and lack of opportunities even for those who are going out to look for jobs. And the crisis has brought in restrictions, and one of the restrictions is the restriction of movement. That has actually crippled the economy in Kibera, and most of the people have suffered. And the biggest challenge that the people in Kibera have right now is actually lack of food. People to sustain their livings and their living and to actually support their families. A big number of Kiberans, they depend on, they actually do casual jobs where they are paid on a daily basis or a weekly basis. A few actually get their salaries on every month. Now, you know, people, those kind of people, they can't entertain an idea of like saving or even stocking some food in their houses. So immediately the pandemic came and people were ordered not to move. People started suffering because they don't have food supplies in their houses. What made me to come up with the initiative of feeding the people is, you know, they're my people. I know how they live. I live with them, so I understand what they go through. I realized if someone cannot come to their rescue to support them, things are going to be worse. People are going to starve. So I started an online campaign, and the first people I reached to are my students, the parents who come from my school. So I try to give them something like food. And I realized that apart from them, there are many people actually who are suffering just the same way. So I reached out to two organizations who have been our partners in our school. That is Generosity Global and Mission and Movement. So I talked to them, I explained to them what is going on, and they did actually an online fundraising where at the first stage we were able to reach to over 100 families. But surprisingly, it wasn't actually really enough. What we gave them, we could sustain them for only, let's say, 2 weeks. So right now we are still on the process of raising funds to be able to reach the same families and more. Yes, we are helping. We are trying our best. People are getting something. But if you look at what we are giving them, is actually a drop in the ocean. I've been saying, like, even if you combine all the organizations here in Kibera and try to feed one village out of the 13 villages, I don't believe we can manage to sustain them even for 1 month, because people are many and their needs are many. We've been needy, but not this much. So the corona pandemic has actually destabilized us in such a way that we've never seen.
Anne, a 23-year-old single mother of 3, depends on food donations for survival.
Hii corona naye imetupeleka vibaya juu hata kazi yenye watu walikuwa na nini hakuna. Saa nyingine mimi naye mtu wa biashara mboga kidogo kidogo pia saa hii ilienda hakuna. Sasa unajua saa nyingine umeenda umekosa, umeenda umeleta umelala, niletea unga na sabuni na sukari. Na nimwashukuru sana hiyo unga itanisaidia, tunaweza kula siku 3 ama siku 4.
We're talking about food, but there's some other hidden problems that are within us. For example, the people who are sick, they need medication, and you know, Kenya, we don't have actually a good structured healthcare. So people right now are concentrating on coronavirus. That is one big challenge. We have families which have teenagers. They need something else apart from food on top, actually. That's things like sanitary towels for the girls. They need extra soaps to clean themselves, to clean their houses. And There's also another issue of rent. The people actually who are not working, who have lost their jobs, they are not able to pay their rent. And you'll find there's some houses which have landlords, and the landlords, they depend solely from those houses to collect money for their living. So there's a dilemma. What should happen in that scenario?
The education system has been affected as well. While the government has been running online teaching programs, this is beyond the reach of kids in the slums.
The kids from the slum, they are known, of course, they are very poor. They can't access smartphones, they can't get internet, there's no electricity. Even most of the families don't have even a television set to access the education that is going on TV to continue their curriculum.
As the pandemic takes hold across the country, vulnerable groups and children that rely on the streets for food and shelter are facing a huge risk on COVID-19, and they lack basic necessities such as clean water and food. Ndongo Karaoke sets out on what has become a daily routine to feed homeless people.
And it came to my mind that there was a community that lives around here. And that's when my mind, it came back to me that there are these people who are here. And I said, I want to feed the street families.
As Kenya continues to battle the COVID-19 pandemic, cases of infections steadily continue to rise each day. Jared Onyancha is a COVID-19 survivor who works as a guard in a quarantine center in Nairobi.
Ilikuwa date 24 mwezi wa 3 ndio serikali iliamua kuleta watu huko Tenana School kwa quarantine. Nikachukua hizo records zao na wengine nikaonyesha mahali wanakaa. Hao watu hatuamini kwa sababu wametoka kwa hizo countries zenye siko na hiyo ugonjwa wa corona. Sasa hata wewe itabidi quarantine nao for another 14 days. Siku ya 7 ni tukakuja kupimwa. Nikakuwa among those people wamekuwa affected. Wamekuwa infected na hiyo ugonjwa. After 2 days ndio gari likakuja ikachukua Kenyatta University Referral Hospital ambulance. 14 days ikaisha, sisi daktari akakuja katupima negative mara 2. Katest negative mara 2. Tukaambiwa sasa nyinyi mko sawa. Watu 3 tukali kwa hiyo ward sasa watu 6 tulikuwa hapo, kwa hiyo 3 tukakuwa sawa kabisa. Tukaambiwa amwezi toka hapa bila kulipa bill. Hii wakati bill yangu ilikuwa imekuja 32,000. Iko hapa pili yangu ndio ilikuwa niliambiwa 32,000. Na mimi sikuwa na pesa kwa sababu sasa mimi nilikuwa gali sikuwa na do. Nikaona sasa sina hata wewe. Wakaenda wakatufungia mahali mpaka tulipe hiyo bill. Sasa ile kitu iko, wacha tutengeneze clip tutumie wisi hapo nje WhatsApp. Nikatengeneza clip, nikaambia ile situation napitia huko kwa hospitali. Kanioji ikatuma social media. Ikakuwa mpaka YouTube ilikuwa. Hiyo clip vile ilienda social media ikatrend sana. Mkubwa yangu principal wa Renana School akaiona, ndio kesho yake after 7 days ndio hata akakuja akatoa hiyo pili yote, nikatoka ndani. Sasa watu wananiona wanatoroka. Sasa unaona mtu anakuona anakutoroka. Ukienda kazini watu ndio hao wengine wanakutoroka. Sasa unaona yani nachifiri vibaya sana. Naona nikipata msamaria mwema nisaidie job mzuri. Niende mahali hata nikae badala ya kukaa mahali najulikana.
Africa is already grappling with poor health systems, an influx of migrants, and other infectious diseases. But despite all these concerns, Africa has some advantages over the outbreak that has scorched countries in Asia, Europe, and the Americas.
One is to understand that the disease actually in 80 to 90% is mild to moderate, and then now probably 6 to 10% will have severe disease. But also of notice is that it has had a great impact of severe disease, especially in the elderly and the immunocompromised individuals. So if you compare Europe demographics and African demographics, is that the Europe demographics have a higher population in the aged elderly as opposed to Africa. And that would perhaps also explain why we are having mild and moderate disease in Africa as opposed to the European nations. Of course, some of the European nations had actually stopped vaccinating. There have been studies that are trying to link up vaccination to the disease severity of COVID-19. So that's where the balance is. But essentially is that our population is not as elderly as is in the Europe. The other thing is the comorbid conditions, hypertension, diabetes, the diseases that are called lifestyle diseases. They've not affected Africa as much as you'd see in the US and in Europe. So remember, disease severity is not just on age, even comorbid conditions and immunity. So perhaps this is what has led to a slightly different experience in Africa so far.
First is the continent's recent experience with viruses such as Ebola, AIDS, malaria, and Lassa fever. The experience has provided significant support in dealing with outbreaks. On the other hand, the fact that COVID-19 has spread to African countries later than other regions around the world can also be considered as an advantage.
COVID-19 has had a fairly interesting distribution, even within Africa. If you go look at the map today, you will notice that Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, Egypt have higher numbers. And same thing again to the very southern tip of Africa. And there seems to be a slightly lower incidence in the equator. And so again, there's something about the spread of the disease, even within Africa. And so we have not completely understood everything about how it is spreading, how it presents. And we could say that maybe there's something that in Central Africa or in the equator region, there's something that the herbalists have been using, or maybe something about the diets or something about the environment that may be contributing to the way the dynamics of this disease is playing out. Because again, if you look at the extremities in Europe and in the Asian regions which have winter, the infection and the spread of the condition seems to be much more than with having it in the warm regions. So again, we haven't completely understood it. But let me also say something which has not been mentioned much in the debates. There was briefly a discussion around vitamin D. Why am I mentioning vitamin D? Because there's a very good relationship between sunshine and vitamin D. If you Google right now about vitamin D, there is another factor that comes up, calcium. Vitamin D is very important for the way your body absorbs calcium from whatever you eat. And it's also very important in a second role that we don't say very loudly. It's one of the most important factors in your immune system functioning well. In fact, very many studies have looked at the relationship between calcium, which vitamin D regulates, and your immune system. In other words, there is a good thread connecting the proper functioning of your immune system to sunshine through vitamin D, and which therefore, again, will be affected by what you eat. Why? Because calcium comes from what you eat. So again, your diet and your immunity are related. In other words, not only is it Artemisia annua or Madagascar organics, but our diets and our exposure to sunshine and healthy air is critical for us to have adequate immunity against not only COVID-19, but any form of viral infection or bacterial infection, because your immune system is best in good sunshine with good air, good nutrition. That's your first medicine.
The World Health Organization warns that there is still a long way to go in the fight against the pandemic. Even though the number of cases in Africa is low, new infections continue to be reported.
Most countries are still in the early stages of their epidemics, and some that were affected early in the pandemic are now starting to see a resurgence in cases. Make no mistake, we have a long way to go. This virus will be with us for a long time.
So should Africa prepare for the worst?